Russia and Ukraine accounted for more than a quarter of Sri Lanka's tourist source markets in January 2021. In January, Russia was also the second highest consumer of Sri Lankan tea. Both nations have developed into an increasingly important source of foreign money for Sri Lanka. However, as a result of frozen tourism and prohibited tea exports as a result of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and as a result of the debt trap created by China's Belt and Road Initiative, the island country may potentially face default. Let's discuss further in this YouNik Economy video. Sri Lanka has borrowed heavily from China, in part to finance the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. According to World Bank data, Sri Lanka issued long-term bonds worth up to $46 billion in 2020. According to the government's Department of External Resources, the country owed $35 billion in foreign debt, with China being the biggest bilateral creditor, accounting for around 10% of the country's foreign debt. Sri Lanka increased its foreign exchange reserves to $3.1 billion, barely enough to discharge its debt, after a $1.5 billion currency swap with China in December last year. Surprisingly, foreign currency was continuing to be spent. In January of this year, the country's foreign currency reserves fell by 25%, leaving just $2.1 billion. Sri Lanka's usable foreign currency reserves reached $792 million in January 2022, but 12-month outflows were $6,904 million at the end of 2021, about 9 times the January 2022 reserve position. Sri Lanka is accumulating debt, with debt accounting for 109% of GDP in 2021 and forecast to reach 116.1% of GDP by 2025. Additionally, between 2021 and 2025, the Sri Lankan Ministry of Finance anticipated that the government would have to repay an average of $4.4 billion in foreign debt a year. The pandemic situation was expected to progressively improve this year, allowing the tourist sector to recover. Apart from tea exports, Sri Lanka believes that tourism and tea together might generate more than $260 million in foreign money this year. Surprisingly, the Russian-Ukrainian conflict has impacted 2 significant sectors. According to the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, Russia and Ukraine accounted for more than 26% of all visitors visiting Sri Lanka this year. Additionally, Russia is the largest importer of tea from the island nation. This year, Russia overtook China as the world's second-largest tea drinker. At the moment, its tea exports to Russia are being halted owing to the suspension of visitors from Russia, Ukraine, and other nations, and the government's finances are deteriorating further. It appears that Sri Lanka would need financing of $5.7 billion in 2022, including that required to close the current account deficit. There is a grave worry that Sri Lanka may be unable to repay its bills unless it restructures its foreign debt or devalues the rupee, which is now tied to the dollar. Sri Lanka's central bank underlined the need for refinancing rather than restructuring the notes. Bank also expressed optimism that the situation between Russia and Ukraine would not deteriorate further. Please give this YouNik video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, comment on it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.